Okay, let's dive in. Welcome, everyone. You know how this works. You bring the sources, the articles, the research, and, well, our job is to get right into it. We pull out the key insights, the stuff you really need to know, maybe find a surprise or two along the way.
Exactly. And this time, wow, we're tackling something huge. I
Yeah.
mean, how do you actually focus? How do you get meaningful stuff done when, let's face it, the world is just buzzing with distractions? Our main source today is Cal Newport's fantastic book, Deep Work. Really powerful ideas in there.
Right. So our mission here is to unpack what Newport actually means by deep work. Why does he argue it's, well, maybe the most crucial skill right now? And most importantly, how can you actually start doing it? We want to pull out those practical strategies from the book that you can use, like today.
Yes. Think of this as your guide to cutting through the noise. It's about finding that focused success, boosting productivity in a way that actually feels, good, not just busy.
Yeah.
And really, the core idea, the thing that shifts your perspective right away, is this contrast he draws between deep work and shallow work.
That contrast is fundamental. So let's define deep work first. The book describes it as professional activities done in a state of complete distraction-free concentration, the kind of focus that pushes your thinking right to its limit. This is the work that creates genuinely new value, improves your skills, and crucially, it's hard for someone else to just copy.
And then he contrasts that with shallow work. Think of this as the non-demanding stuff. Cognitively easy,
Mhm.
often done while you're distracted, almost on autopilot. Like firing off quick emails, those routine meetings where you kind of zone out, endless admin tasks. And the book's point is stark. Most of us, we spend way, way too much time stuck in the shallow end.
Which leads directly to his main argument, what he calls the deep work hypothesis. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Newport argues that the ability to go deep, to concentrate intensely, is becoming incredibly rare.
Right, when it's becoming super valuable.
Exactly. Rare and valuable in today's economy. Why rare? Well, just look around. Constant pings, open offices, social media always calling. Distractions are basically the air we breathe now. So if you can choose focus, if you can cultivate that ability, it becomes this huge competitive advantage. Almost unfair, really.
Yeah, and if you think about the economics of it all,
Mm,
how value is actually created and rewarded,
yeah.
you see what he calls the economics of deep work.
Hmm.
He basically contrasts the shallow worker doing easily replicated tasks with the deep worker. The economy is shifting to reward people who can focus deeply, learn complex things quickly, and then produce really high-quality work that others can't easily duplicate. And it's not about working longer hours.
Mm.
It's about achieving way more high-value stuff in less time because you're using your brain differently,
Hmm.
more intensely.
And he doesn't just leave it as theory. The book gives some great examples. Real people.
Mm,
Think about Bill Gates and his famous Think Weeks. He'd literally go off-grid to a cabin just to think and work without interruption.
wow.
Or Carl Jung building that stone tower retreat. Why? To guarantee uninterrupted focus for his psychology work. Even J.K. Rowling, right? She talked about needing to lock herself away in hotels sometimes to finish the Harry Potter books. Needing those deep, focused blocks.
Mm.
These aren't just, weird quirks. The source uses them to show how vital that focused, uninterrupted time was for achieving truly exceptional results. It really drives the point home.
Okay, so that really sets the stage. We get what deep work is and why it's so important, especially now. So the big question becomes, how? How do we actually pull this off in our crazy, distraction-filled lives? Thankfully, Newport gives us a playbook. Part 2 of the book lays out 4 key rules. Really practical strategies for making deep work a part of your routine.
Rule number 1 is pretty direct. You have to work deeply. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But like we said, it's tough. Our environment, our habits, they all push against it. So the source stresses this takes real effort. Discipline. You're basically training your brain to resist distractions and stay focused.
And how do you do that training? Well, the book offers concrete steps. One big idea is to ritualize deep work. It's not about waiting for inspiration. It's about setting up routines, like pick a specific time, find a dedicated space if you can, maybe even have a starting ritual. And that this is key to ruthlessly eliminate distractions. Phone off, notifications silenced, maybe use website blockers. Let people know you're unavailable. Make it a habit or ritual so it takes less willpower each time.
Another really practical tool from the source is time blocking. This is more than just a to-do list. It means actually scheduling blocks of time on your calendar for specific deep work tasks. You're not just hoping you'll find the time, you're actively making it, committing to it.
Forces you to be intentional, right?
Exactly. It puts focus right there in your schedule.
And If this all sounds a bit daunting, especially if you're new to this idea, the source has some good advice. Start small. Don't feel like you need to suddenly block off 8 hours for deep work. That's probably not realistic at first. Start with maybe like 60 minutes or 90. Build up gradually. Think of it like working a muscle you need to build that concentration stamina over time.
Okay, rule number 2. This one might feel a little strange at first. Embrace boredom.
Yeah, sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? We hate being bored.
We do. We reach for our phones the second things get quiet. But Newport explains why this is so important. Our brains have gotten used to constant stimulation, constant novelty. So when things are quiet or when we hit a tough spot in deep work, our brain resists. It craves distraction. That feeling of boredom or discomfort is often the very thing that makes us break focus.
So you actually need to practice, well, being okay with not being constantly entertained. You need to build tolerance for that lack of input. The book suggests things like deliberately practicing uninterrupted focus. Like when you're waiting in line, don't automatically pull out your phone. Just be. Let your mind wander or focus on one thing. Try working on a single task for longer stretches without switching. The more you resist that urge to seek distraction when bored, the stronger your focus gets overall.
And related to that, a really practical tip. Schedule internet time. Instead of checking email or social media constantly whenever the impulse strikes, you set specific, limited times during the day for it.
Like maybe once in the morning and once in the afternoon.
Exactly. You contain those activities.
Yeah.
This stops them from constantly fragmenting your attention and pulling you out of deeper focus. It builds that resistance muscle.
Okay, now for a rule that definitely gets people talking, quit social media.
Yeah, that's a strong one.
It is. And Newport's argument in the book is pretty direct. He basically says these platforms are engineered to capture your attention and keep it. And for most people, they offer very little real, measurable value towards deep professional goals, or even genuinely deep personal connections compared to the time and attention they consume.
Now, the source does add some nuance here. It acknowledges that for some professions, certain platforms might feel necessary. In that case, the advice is, be selective. Really, truly evaluate which platforms genuinely give you significant, tangible benefits related to your deep work or deep life goals.
And ditch the rest.
Pretty much. Be ruthless about where you invest your limited attention.
And the bigger point here is the opportunity cost, right? Every minute spent scrolling is a minute not spent on focused learning, creating something valuable, or having a real conversation. By cutting back drastically, you free up not just time, but also like mental energy, cognitive bandwidth. The key then is to consciously use that reclaimed time and energy for actual deep work or other high-value things.
Right. And that brings us to the final rule, number 4. Drain the shallows. This one focuses on minimizing all that shallow work we talked about earlier. The busy work.
The stuff that makes you feel productive but isn't really moving the needle.
Exactly. Unnecessary meetings, endless email chains, admin tasks that could be handled more efficiently. The source argues this shallow stuff is a massive time thief, crowding out the space needed for deep work.
Now, how do you fight back? The book suggests a couple of strategies. One is, just like deep work, you schedule shallow work. Give these tasks their own time blocks. Put boundaries around them so they don't just expand to fill your entire day. This protects those precious deep work slots you've scheduled.
And another really effective technique mentioned is to batch tasks. Group similar shallow tasks together. Instead of checking email every 15 minutes, do it all at once, say twice a day.
Or schedule all your necessary but maybe less demanding meetings back to back.
Precisely. It minimizes context switching. Jumping between different types of tasks is really inefficient. Batching makes you more efficient with the shallow stuff, leaving longer, cleaner stretches for deep concentration.
So, by being much more deliberate about managing and minimizing this low-value, fragmented work, you carve out the essential time and mental energy for the deep stuff, the work that truly matters for progress and skill building.
No, let's be real. Putting all this into practice, integrating deep work into a busy life, it's not like flipping a switch. The source is very clear about that.
Definitely not.
It takes time. It takes consistent effort, practice. You're building new habits and breaking old, ingrained ones. It requires real discipline.
Exactly. It really boils down to building the deep work habit. And that involves several things. Designing your environment, like we said, actively fighting distractions, physical ones, digital ones, even mental ones, sticking to your schedule, treating those deep work blocks as non-negotiable appointments, being really intentional about when you work deeply, where you do it, and how you approach it. The book makes a strong case that the most successful people aren't just smarter, they've deliberately mastered this habit.
And there's another layer here beyond just productivity. The source talks about the psychological benefits, how this connects to reaching your full potential, engaging in that kind of intense focus, tackling hard problems.
Mm.
It's inherently challenging, right? It forces you to stretch your abilities, to grow in ways that just coasting through shallow tasks never will.
Hmm.
That's why mastering deep work often leads not just to external results like promotions or publications, but also to a much deeper sense of personal satisfaction, fulfillment, mastery.
Yeah, it's powerful how the book frames it almost as a journey of self-mastery. You're learning to manage your impulses, to be incredibly mindful of your time and attention, your most valuable resources. You're actively structuring your life to make space for what truly matters to you. So deep work isn't just a productivity hack. It's about choosing to do meaningful work and building a life that actually supports that.
So when you look at the source material overall, deep work comes across as much more than just a productivity system. It's presented almost as a philosophy, a lifestyle choice. It requires that constant, deliberate effort to push back against the endless stream of distractions and prioritize the work that uses your best abilities and leads to a more impactful, meaningful life.
So just to quickly recap the big ideas we pulled from the source, that crucial difference between deep and shallow work, the surprising importance of embracing boredom to build focus, that challenging call to rethink social media, the practical need to drain the shallows, minimize the busy work, and finally the steps to actually build these deep work habits. It really lays out a path to unlocking a lot more potential professionally and personally.
So thinking about everything we've discussed from the book, maybe take a second right now to reflect on your own day, your own habits. Where do you stand with focus versus distraction? Where could you maybe carve out just a little more space for that really valuable deep work?
And maybe one final thought to leave you with, building on these ideas. If, as the source argues, real value, growth, and even fulfillment often come from pushing your mind on hard things requiring deep focus, what's one single distraction, just one that you could perhaps eliminate or even just reduce significantly starting today to make a little bit more room for that kind of work?
That's a powerful question to consider. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into focus and meaningful work.